All right, so now we'll try to apply the zero exponent property and the negative exponent property. So on number 1, 6.7 to the 0 power. I can evaluate that using on my calculator, but 6.7, that's not 0 to the 0 power. Anything to the 0 power is 1. And then on number 2, negative 2 to the negative 4th power. Negative 2 is what's being raised to the negative 4th power. So to make this negative exponent positive, I want to take the reciprocal of negative 2. Or, in other words, negative 2 is in the numerator or on top. Even though it's not a fraction, I could always put it over 1. To make the negative exponent positive, you put the negative 2 in the denominator. As soon as you bring it to the denominator, that automatically makes the exponent positive. So it'd be negative 2 to the positive 4th power. And then you could evaluate that. You could use your calculator. If you use your calculator, again, I want to make this definite for you. So if you use your calculator, you have to put the negative 2 in parentheses. But it's negative 2 times negative 2, which is positive 4, times negative 2 once more, which is negative 8, and then multiplied by negative 2 once more. Negative 8 times negative 2 is positive 16. So 1 over 16 or 1/16. Just leave it like that. Okay, and I actually do want you to write it as a fraction as opposed to entering in on your calculator 1 over negative 2 to the 4th power and then getting a decimal. Just leave it as a fraction. All right, number 3. It's a little bit more involved here. You just have to take it one part at a time. 4, that's not raised to any negative exponent. It's not raised to an exponent, in fact. So I'm just going to leave it alone right now. I'm going to evaluate this part, x to the 0 power. Sorry, I probably should have added in there, assume that any variable is non-zero. So as long as x is not 0, x to the 0 power, that right there is 1. So it's 4x to the 0, which really means 4 times x to the 0, which, as I mentioned, is 1. So 4 times 1. And then y to the negative third, we'll take care of that in a minute. 4 times 1 is 4. Now, y to the negative third, that's in the denominator. I want to make the negative exponent positive. I have to bring it to the numerator. As soon as you bring it to the numerator, then that automatically makes the exponent positive. And just like with x, we have to assume that y is not 0. That's all we can do here. Without knowing the value of y, just leave it as 4y to the 3rd power. That's all you can do. Okay, now number 3, 3 to the negative 3rd power. This 3, even though there's no fraction written, you could always put it over 1. So in order to make the negative exponent positive, you put the base in the opposite place. It's in the numerator right now. Bring it to the denominator, 3, and then that automatically makes this exponent positive. You don't want to leave the numerator blank, though. What's still there is 1, not 0. Don't just leave it blank. There's a 1 there. And then in the denominator, 3 to the 3rd. 3 times 3 is 9. Multiplied by 3 once more is 27. So 1 over 27, again, leave it as a fraction as opposed to writing it as a decimal. Okay, number 5, negative 9 to the 0 power. I should have mentioned at the beginning of the video, but you should already know that. If you need to stop, pause the video, maybe to relook at a problem, do that because we might be going a little bit quick. But negative 9 to the 0 power, everything inside the parentheses is raised to the 0 power. Negative 9 is definitely not 0. So anything to the 0 power, 1. And then number 6. Okay, here's where you need to be extra careful. You always want to be extra careful. But in the numerator, it's negative 5 to the 0 power. What's being raised to the 0 power in the numerator is just 5. Then you want to take the opposite of that. Because really, negative 5 to the 0 power is the same as this. Negative 1 times 5 to the 0 power. Again, you want to do your exponents before multiplication. So same thing here. What I have circled, 5 to the 0 power, that's 1. But then you take the opposite of that. So negative 1 is what's in the numerator. And then what's in the denominator, 2 to the negative second. The 2 is raised to the negative exponent. It's in the denominator. So I want to make the negative exponent positive. I'm going to bring it to the numerator. What was already in the numerator or on top is negative 1. So it'd be negative 1 times, and then as soon as you bring the exponent to the numerator, it becomes positive. 2 to the positive 2nd power. I'm going to simplify that. 2 squared is 4. So it'd be negative 1 times 4. Again, this part is 4 right here. Sorry, I'm going to scoot it up so you can see my work here. But negative 1 times 2 squared. 2 squared is 4. Negative 1 times 4 is negative 4. We're asked to evaluate the expression. When you're evaluating an expression, you're simplifying an expression. We're not solving anything here. It's not an equation, but we want to simplify as far as we can go. So don't just do one thing and then call it good, like 5 to the 0 power. You make that 1, which you do want to do, but you still want to simplify by making the negative exponent positive, evaluating 2 squared, multiplying it by a negative 1. So take it as far as you can go. Negative 4 is what you should end up with.